With us now is Senator Shaheen, a Democrat from New Hampshire. She's the ranking member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Senator Shaheen, thank you very much for being with us this morning. I want to play you what Secretary Hegseth had to say as for the strategic justification for this operation. Listen.
The mission of Operation Epic Fury is laser focused. Destroy Iranian offensive missiles, destroy Iranian missile production, destroy their navy and other security infrastructure, and they will never have nuclear weapons.
So, Senator, destroy the missiles, destroy the navy, and no nukes. Does that explain to you this conflict?
Well, like the taking out of Maduro in Venezuela, the strategy and the reasoning has shifted depending on the day. And I think no one regrets taking out the Ayatollah. He has been a promoter of evil across the Middle East, terrorism that has affected American lives. But there is no clear strategy at this point, and the president has not come to the American people. He just had a State of the Union. He didn't talk about the operations in Iran. He hasn't come to Congress to ask for a declaration of war. So it's not at all clear what the end game is. He said, Secretary Hegseth said, well, it was not regime change, but regime change has resulted. Well, it's not clear that regime change has resulted. We took out the Ayatollah, but we have a 3-person council that's likely to have his successor be just as hardline, if not worse. So there isn't really a clear strategy, and we need to hear from the president what he wants. This is an opportunity for a real inflection point in the Middle East if we're successful, but it's not at all clear how that's going to play out.
What is success? When do you think this ends?
Well, it was interesting that the secretary was unwilling to answer when does this end. The president campaigned last year saying no forever wars, and yet there is the potential to get into another endless war in the Middle East. So hopefully we're going to get briefed later today or tomorrow in Congress about what the strategy is and what the plans are. But at this point, we don't know what that is.
Do you feel the United States is safer today on Monday morning than it was on, say, Friday before these strikes took place?
Well, we saw a self-radicalized terrorist attack in Austin, Texas over the weekend. So clearly it appears there might be terror cells in the country that are being activated as a result of these actions. In the long term, if we are able to stop Iran's support for terrorist groups like Hezbollah, like Hamas, like the Houthis, then America will be safer. But again, we've not heard what the clear strategy is to make us safer. Now, our men and women in the military have executed brilliantly, as they always do. And I know that Americans share condolences to the families of those who've been lost and are concerned about further losses. So one of the concerns here is that this war escalates. We know that Iran is targeting Americans or sites across the Middle East where there might be Americans. Secretary Rubio, a couple of weeks ago, when he was before the Foreign Relations Committee, pointed out there are 40,000 Americans within missile striking range of Iran. So we know what Iran is doing, and hopefully we're going to address that as they target Americans.
We learned overnight that 3 F-15 fighter jets were shot down by Kuwaiti air defense, friendly fire apparently. Here's some video right now of one of those crashes apparently. Luckily, we are told that none of the pilots, none of the people on board were killed. They all managed to eject safely. But the F-15 here, by some estimates, I've seen estimates that they cost $30 million a piece, all the way up to $100 million a piece. It just gets to the issue of the cost of this conflict. What will Congress's role be, or should it be, do you think, in overseeing that aspect of it?
Well, there's a reason why our founding fathers, when they established the Constitution, gave Congress the ability to declare war, because they didn't want one individual in the leader of the country to have that authority. And so that's why Congress has this power. We're going to have a war powers resolution before the Senate this week. So we'll see how Congress votes. But
Right.
as you point out, one thing that hasn't been explained yet to the American people is, what is the cost of this war going to be? We already know that gas prices are going to go up. The American people are already concerned about cost of living, and how the administration is addressing that. And what we've heard from the president is more wars, more conflicts, no effort to address the cost of living.
Senator Jeanne Shaheen from New Hampshire, the ranking member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. We do appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much.